Welcome back to episode number 006 of the OverQualifed Golf Dads Podcast. I am your host, Scott Porter, along with my co-host, as always, Maddox Lytle, head coach of Point University. And on tonight's special guest, Mr. Shannon Lipham, head coach of the University of West Georgia. Go Wolves. We have known each other a very, very long time, Lip. Back in when I first got started in golf at Callaway Gardens, I started as a cart boy, aka I think outside service attendant technically was the name, but Mr. Shannon Lipham was my assistant pro there. He was basically responsible for keeping up with my butt in the afternoons and making sure that I didn't sneak onto the golf course to go hit golf balls all day, which we did a lot.
We did.
So I'm going to go ahead and throw it to Shannon, let him introduce himself a little bit, and we're happy to have you on, Shannon.
Well, it's a huge honor of mine to be able to come on here with y'all. I've known both of y'all for a long time. Probably known actually Scott a little bit longer than I've known Maddox. For me to see how y'all have grown, become adults, become dads. It's a huge honor of mine to be able to come on here and talk to y'all about whatever we talk about, college golf, recruiting, anything. It's a huge honor of mine to be able to do this.
Thank you, man. Yeah, that for sure. That means a lot to me, especially because you saw me when I didn't know where the heck life was going to take me. That was before I wanted to be a golf pro, before I didn't know what I was doing.
Trust me, Scott, I didn't know what I wanted to do then either.
Absolutely.
That wasn't that long ago, so and I was trying to figure it out then too. Trust
there
me.
You go. And to tie Maddox into that, I met Maddox. We've mentioned this once on the pod, but I met Maddox when he was on the team at Point University, and he was doing all of the qualifying rounds of practicing out there under Coach Coach Payne, right? Stephen Payne, and he is the guy that gave you your first coaching job, right, Shannon?
Correct. You mentioned it. I was the assistant golf pro at Callaway Gardens for 8 years. You know, you and I both worked for a legend in the Georgia section, Wyatt Detmer. Maddox is very familiar with Wyatt. A true legend, you know, in these parts when it comes to the club pro business. And I was very, very fortunate to be able to work with him. Learned a ton from him. When Coach Payne gave me the opportunity to get back into coaching, part of my responsibility when I was at Point as his assistant was I was the general manager of Point University Golf Club for, what did I do that, Red? 2 years, I guess? Two and a half years?
Yeah, two or three.
Yeah, and, I wouldn't have even been able to take on that kind of responsibility if it wasn't for the stuff that Wyatt Detmer was able to teach me. He's just truly a class act, a hell of a golfer. Still, I'm not sure how old Wyatt is now, but he'd kick all three of our butts on any given occasion on the golf course.
Let me tell you, quick side note. The second day of the Atlanta Open this past year, playing twosomes, I got paired with Wyatt Detmer, or we were playing threesomes, and then one guy didn't show. Just the two of us, like it was 10 years before at Callaway when he threw me on the cart and told me we were going to play a few holes. And I was right there with him, neck and neck for 13 holes, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to beat Wyatt. Like, it was this thought that crept into my mind on, like, hole 13. I think I was 2 over, and he was maybe 3 over, and I was like, I'm going to beat Wyatt. Like, it was that thought that you just can't have, right? You just absolutely can't have it. And then, sure enough, I think I shot 78 that day, so I bogeyed, 4 out of my last 6. And he birdied 2 out of the last 3 to shoot, like, 1 over.
That's about right.
And so he ended up beating me by like 6, or 5, and I was. He's been torturing me for a long time, that man.
Yep.
Nah, we love him to death.
Yeah,
Maddox, what experiences did you have with Shannon in those early years back in the day?
Yeah, no, I can remember being in school, going over to Callaway, and I just knew Shannon as the guy that had a lose sticker on the back of his truck. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to get along with whoever the heck drives that. It's here every time. But, yeah, I could go in there and just kind of chat it up with him a little bit. Mainly, I would go in there, ask for some golf balls graciously and to go hit a few before we started. But eventually got to where I kind of found out who he was. Met, we I guess, talked a lot. But before rounds and found out he was a fisherman. He knew I was a fisherman. So we got to talk about that quite a bit. And then, yeah, I guess you came in, my super senior semester, as I like to call it.
You were around. You weren't quite finished with school yet. You were around.
Yeah, I had to finish that fall, and he started. So then, of course, we developed a better relationship then because I was working at the PUG, UGC. So I got to know him a little bit then. And then 2 years later, he put his trust in me and faith in me to bring me on as the assistant coach for the men and women's program at Point. And heck, I wouldn't be where I'm at today without that opportunity. And so, I've got the ton to thank Shannon for when it comes to that. Taught me a lot about being a coach. I mean, I didn't know much other than show up for practice and tell the guys not to be crazy on the golf course. So, I got to learn a lot from working with him at Point, and again, kind of led me to where I'm at now today. And as he knows, I still call him quite a bit throughout the year when I've got tough decisions to make, or I just need some advice, and just really, really fortunate to call him a friend and mentor and coaching. Been pretty cool to, see where he's at now at West Georgia. And again, just kind of gives me some confidence to know that one day, hopefully I can land something like that myself. So,
Really? Yeah, so I mean, my early recollections of just working with you, Shannon, was one, you love to fish. Two, it was golf 90% of the time in the shop, but every once in a while I'd walk in and there was some Star Trek on the TV, and you were the only person I knew in Pine Mountain, Georgia, or just in rural where I grew up, Georgia, that watched Star Trek. I had never seen that before,
Yeah.
and you loved it, and I got like I actually got very intrigued by the show. I was like, there has to be something he sees in this. So I ended up watching a few episodes later in life. And but then the thing that gave me the most lasting impression was the Summer Family Adventure, and watching. But hold on here, hang with me. Watching the difference in the way like you dreaded it, but then the face that you put on when it was there, right? And there's nothing fake about that, because every golf pro in America knows that face. We do it every day.
Yep.
I know when I've been in the past, when I've been training my staff to work in the pro shop or whatnot, I teach them the same way you taught me and Wyatt taught me. And it's that no matter who walks in the door, they're coming to the golf course as if to get rid of all of their problems. Everything goes away when they walk in the doors, and you can't have your problems showing up in that interaction. So you gave me some lifelong lessons as a golf pro. So moving into the coaching stuff, first year at University of West Georgia.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about maybe not how that came about, but where you were before, and maybe how excited you are to be there.
So, I was fortunate enough, Coach Stephen Payne gave me the opportunity to you heard me earlier talk about getting back into coaching. Back earlier in the 2000s, my first coaching opportunity was Brian Fair up at Berry College. When he first got hired, he's been there 20 years now, I guess. When he first got hired, he hired me as his assistant coach. That was my very first opportunity in 05. I think it was 04 actually, 04. So I was at Berry a year, had the opportunity to go restart Georgia Southwestern's golf program. They had dropped it in the early 90s. They were restarting the program. Very unique opportunity to go down to Americas and kind of get that going again. It was an NAIA program at the time. When I got there, they were actually starting the process of becoming a Division II athletic program, joining the NCAA, which is what they are now. Now they're one of the top 8 or 10, 12 Division II golf programs in the country. They've done really, really well. Kind of got impatient. I've never claimed to be the smartest guy in the world. I interviewed for a couple of jobs, Division I jobs that I kind of felt like I selfishly felt like I should have gotten. I had no reason to have gotten them jobs, but I got impatient, didn't get the jobs, and got out of that business. A girl I was seeing at the time, she was working. Her dad was working for Tyson Foods. Worked with them. I didn't know anything about chickens, so got back in the golf business. Now, it took me forever to get another opportunity. One thing you learn about the college golf business is there's not a ton of turnover. Maddox will tell you, we got the best job in the world. We get to work with, young men, every day. The majority of them really good students, really good golfers. We get to go to these fantastic golf courses, resorts all over, the country. And we had a little time in the summer. So we got the best job in the world. It literally took 10 years for me to get another opportunity. Got to know Coach Payne. He gave me that chance at that point. Worked with him for 2.5 years. When he took Mississippi State's assistant's job, that's when I stepped in, we hired Maddox on as the assistant, and then I got a little, I missed out on a couple of Division II jobs that I felt like I needed to get, and took a job at LaGrange College. And my thought process at the time was I needed to get NCAA on my resume. I've been told by one of the athletic directors that didn't hire me. He said, your resume's fine. You obviously won a ton the year Maddox and I worked together. The semester Maddox and I worked together, we were far and away the best team in the country. Had 4 All-Americans. I've got a wonderful resume because of my time at Point. But he said, we're going to hire the Division II guy because he's been in NCAA. Okay. Understood. Had opportunity. Coach Lee Richter retired, a legend himself, retired at LaGrange. Had a chance to go there. Obviously, I'm from LaGrange. My mom, to this day, lives 3 miles from campus. So I saw an opportunity to rebuild that program and get, NCAA on the resume. Did some good things at LaGrange. I was there for 3 years. Got an indoor facility put in. We actually won a tournament. We did some really good things. And I kind of felt like, I'm not going to say I was stuck, but I'm getting a little older. I'm 48 now. So I kind of, not want to say I missed the bus, but, it was getting close. And, this opportunity came up at University of West Georgia. I had, heard the job was open. Actually, a recruiter called me. It wasn't a coach anywhere else. A recruiter called me and that I had done some business with in the past and said, hey, one of my players is up in Carrollton. Their coach just moved on. I was like, okay. So they had my resume that afternoon. I was interviewing 2 weeks later, and about a week after that, got the job. So, to get the opportunity to coach at the highest level. A lot of people don't know yet. West Georgia, we moved Division I. Been a Division II athletic program since '81, I believe. We've made the move to Division I. The fact that I'm very fortunate. I've got the distinction of coaching at 3 different schools, at 3 different levels, and I haven't had to move yet. I don't know anybody else can say that. So
Good old Heard County.
We live on my wife's grandparents' home place, and it was just, the location was perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah. I got love for West Georgia. My parents both graduated from West Georgia College then to show their age. But it was West Georgia College then. They were the Braves, not the Wolves. And, so I ended up going to West Georgia fresh out of high school in 2013. And the entire time I was talking about working for you, I was skipping class in Carrollton. And all those times that my parents thought I was in class, I was really down at Callaway playing 36 holes. So Mom, Dad, when you listen to this, if you listen to this, I apologize. You already know that, but yeah, we're just going to get that on the record. But no, it's really, really cool to see you as the head coach of the program that I was looking at and going, I'm never going to get as good as those guys. Still probably am not as good as those guys, but it's cool to watch your journey, Shannon, because I've always said that when I'm watching and following along with your social medias, and you were like this when I was working for you, is no matter what you were doing, you were all about doing that. So if it was fishing, it was fishing. If it was golf, it was golf. And golf in the wintertime, I couldn't get you on the practice range. You're like, it's not golf season. I'm not going out there. And in the spring and summer, we couldn't get you off of it. We're like, Shannon, we're closing the range. You're like, I know 5 more balls. So, it's one of those things where you're 10 toes down, as the young bucks say these days, in everything that you do. And it's really, really cool to see. And I'm super, super happy for you. So shifting, Maddox, why don't you lead us into maybe our first question in terms of the golf dad stuff and what advice Shannon has for parents of young golfers out there getting people in the game and whatnot.
Yeah. So Shannon, this is something that I think both of us can answer, but with your experience and especially at every level. So you've seen a ton of kids and met a ton of parents. What would you say for dads of kids that are, wanting their kid to play college golf? So we're talking high school level juniors, right? What would you say for those parents or even for those kids where the parents actually play a role in recruiting? So how it can both positively and negatively affect maybe your view to that kid and why you may not bring them on because of their relationship or how their parents act in general.
Having your parents there supporting you, they've got to have that. And I'm not even talking about the financial aspect of it. We've all been in the golf business, in and around the golf business a long time. We know how expensive the game is. You start doing tournament golf, you're crisscrossing the southeast in the country. You've got to have that option. But You've got to have that support system for one. Anytime, you and I, Maddox, we're trying to convince our guys, whether they're from Columbus, Atlanta, Stockholm, Sweden, Joburg, South Africa, that, golf is a team sport. It's an individual sport. And when you're out there on the golf course, it's you against the world. And to have that support system from the parents, I think it's very, very important. I like to see parents at the tournaments, even for us at the college level. I love it when the parents get to come to the tournaments, be a part of the good, be a part of the bad, go out and eat with us. Anytime there's support there, I think it's fantastic. There's a line to it, though, and you're well aware of it, Maddox. Anytime I'm out recruiting, out watching these junior golfers play, you see the overbearing parent who's cussing under his breath because junior just missed a 3-foot par putt. They all know when it doesn't matter if it's a coach at the smallest of junior colleges or the Power 4 school, they're going to have the gear on. Parents see them there. The fact that they're even verbalizing that stuff in front of us, to me, is a red flag. And I know they're pulling for their children. I completely get that. But it's just a red flag for us as coaches when we see parents who are a little overbearing, say things to their kids when they make a mistake on the golf course in a negative manner. Keep your head up, that kind of stuff. Pat on the back, sure, that's awesome, sure. That's mine and Maddox's job too during tournament play. The negativity, that's really a huge red flag for me. And I'm sure if you're not going to ask the question, I'm sure somebody out there is thinking, will you not recruit a kid because of a parent? Absolutely. Absolutely I will. When the business that we're in, there's so many junior golfers out there that are really dang good. There's another kid out there as good or better than the one I'm sitting in front of right now. And I just think as a parent, it's better, let them be, let them learn, be as positive an influence on the golf course as you possibly can.
You muted.
Thank you, Maddox. I think one of the things that I like to teach, not only my students, but when their parents are watching the lesson, is if you're showing the ups and downs emotionally, even just on the sideline, just watching, that child as young as 6 is going to mirror those emotions. It's going to feed off. Yeah, he's going to feed, he or she is going to feed off of that. And it's going to elevate them to a place where they put all of their worth in the golf shot, right? Where if you are on the range, it's one thing to say great job, if they hit a great shot. Like, great shot is a great shot. But if their sole purpose of being there is searching for the satisfaction of getting that from the parent, getting that great shot from the parent, I think at a young early age, we kind of set a precedent in the best of intentions, right? You're not meaning to do that. But what I try to teach, my parents that have little golfers, little kids that are trying golf for the first time, keep it positive the entire time. Don't let the ups and downs of the golf shot dictate how they feel about the practice session. And, flash forward 10 times to college golf, to getting recruited, all of those little details in what you're doing when you're raising a child and coaching a child in golf, I think end up making or breaking, the child's personality when they're at the junior golf level. There's a lot of pressure on these kids. Junior golf scoreboard is essentially, back in my college days, we had like Yit Yak, where everybody would go on there and just kind of talk trash, and it was almost anonymously. Junior golf scoreboard is a direct implication of how they're playing at any given time, or throughout a season. And when you're tied into that as a 13, 14-year-old kid, it can get very, very stressful. The parents adding on to that stress is something that, like you said, working in the golf business, we do see every day. And we also see the great sides of it too, the other sides, where the parents that know what they're doing. And that's why we're on this podcast, because if there's anything that we can do to help those parents that are just trying to bring out their best in their kid, give them a sport that they can enjoy for the rest of their life, regardless of college golf or not. With that being said, I want both of you to kind of talk about, I know the NAIA rules are different than the NCAA rules. You're directly impacted with the amount of scholarships, and this team size has gone down tremendously. Can you kind of talk about that, Shannon? And maybe some of our listeners don't know quite as much about it.
I could a little. So much of it is speculation. The ruling comes out in March. obviously when that happens, a lot of things will fall into place pretty quickly. What I've heard, and I've obviously talked to a lot of other coaches, in our conference and around, they're passing a max roster, and we talk about it from a golf program standpoint. This is happening, and it's going to affect athletic departments as a whole. They're making a max roster for baseball, volleyball, softball, golf, men's, women's golf. I mean, it's affecting all the. It's even affecting football. Now, what I'm hearing is, in conferences can do some other stuff now, but max roster of 9 in Division I college golf, and you can offer as many as 9 full scholarships, and a lot of it has to do with revenue sharing. And when you start talking about that kind of stuff, that's not my wheelhouse. I don't even want to begin to speculate.
For the listener, how many scholarships do you have right now to give, or how many can you?
Fully funded right now, before all this changes. Fully funded Division I is 4.5.
That's what I thought.
0.5. Now, we're a first year. We're still considered to be in transition. We're a Division I program. We're in the Atlantic Sun Conference, but we're not fully funded. West Georgia was a pretty well funded Division II golf program. Obviously, there is a 4-year probationary period for us, and that's what that probationary period is for. Is to get all the finances straight, get the donor money rolling, to get those budgets up. We'll get there eventually. But fully funded Division I scholarships right now is 4.5.
Have you thought about calling Alexander Shunnerai? He's got all the money for the billboards. He might insert a little.
You see him a lot more in Alabama.
Dude, I'm seeing him everywhere. I saw him. I see him. There's one next to Noonan Country Club. I swear.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, across the street.
Right across the street too.
Really?
Dude, they're all up here.
For years, I didn't know he was in Georgia.
My dad was in Louisiana the other day and sent me one from Louisiana. The man has taken over the Southeast. He's coming for those.
A real person.
I mean, I'm surprised he hasn't.
Number. One time in college, we were on a road trip, and I called the number to ask how many billboards they had. They couldn't tell me. I wanted to know how much that guy was spending on billboards alone, and they were like, they blew me off. They were like, I'm not answering this.
I want a receiver in the national championship. If Georgia, Alabama, the next Southern team, obviously next Monday isn't going to be with that, but the next Southern team that's in the national championship, I want them to be like, and shout out our dog, NIL, daddy, Alexander Shunnerai. All right, so, wow, that got off, my bad, guys. That got off track a little bit. So with that being said, I think, one of the things that parents are hearing in that is like, well, that's a good thing that scholarships are growing up. And I think overall that'll be very, very cool. And I'm sure it'll be, cool to have that. But again, when you're talking about the differences in the NAIA and NCAA, Maddox, I'm going to throw this to you because you're on the other end of the spectrum where you have a very large team, and kind of talk about just how much that goes in. And if the NCAA does pass that and the roster sizes go to 9, I have to imagine there's going to be a lot of kids trying to get on some NAIA programs.
There's over 100 in the portal right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously been sort of in the loop. I don't get all the information that the NCAA guys get, but obviously having friends in the coaching business in the NCAA, I've heard of it, right? So my initial thought was, I mean, selfishly, it's kind of good for us because that means that's just going to open up that many more doors for that level of talent to kind of filter its way back to us. Because, I mean, one thing I will say just to add on top of that is like, I've always been a firm believer that the top of the top, aside from the Power 5, the top of the top golfers themselves as individuals can compete against anybody at any level. We've had the number 1 player in the country play for us at one point in Ruan Pretorius, right? We've had Cole Stevens who won the APGA award when he went to Augusta. Ryan Vanderklis, who played a phenomenal career between Memphis, then Memphis, then Augusta. Eric Wauer, who was a phenomenal golfer. Again, we've got so many guys down the line that I could mention that are just as good here. That were just as good here as the top guys in Division I. But again, we don't have quite the depth of those schools. So that's kind of my initial thought of it. On it is hopefully, again, that will open up some doors and give us some more opportunities to have guys that are pretty good. They could make a significant impact on schools like point in other NAIA schools, because again, like you said, we have a completely different set of rules. I mean, our roster limit isn't, I would say, we actually have, we're the opposite. So for us, we have a minimum, and as of this moment, we're at a minimum of 17, right? That's dang near double the max that the Division I guys are going to have, right?
It potentially, allegedly.
Right, exactly. So, like that's a massive difference. Right? And again, like, you know, if we have that opportunity to filter those guys to us, that will be incredible. You know, again, there's so many college golf. Well, there's so many colleges that offer golf: D2, D3, NAI, Division I, JUCOs, both divisions of JUCO. I mean, it's endless. So it may take a while for them to filter to us, but again, I think that just, again, it opens up the door. So that's my thoughts on it.
Well, Red, I don't think it's going to take long. I really don't. Because, like I said, it's already programs, and there's mid-major programs that's already let go of 5 and 6 guys. There's a school not too far from here. I've got one of their guys on my roster right now. Played at this other school last semester. He's on my roster now. I've got emails from schools out of the MAC daily, from kids that played at schools in the MAC wanting to come south and play. They were cut from their roster, preparing for this max roster thing. And my thought on it, there's going to be a downside to it. And for a year or two, you're going to have really, really good high school players. They're not going to play at the level that they've been told for 2 and 3 years, not told, but deserve to play at.
Right.
You know, and I may be a little off base with this, but, you know, I could see a scenario where it's Power 4 schools, they may not necessarily go after that real good high school golfer, because they'll be able to go to a mid-major, get their best golfer, offer them some NIL. All right, so then the mid-major, they're going to go to Division II or NAIA, try to get their best players. Then you're going to have, so, all right, I haven't even talked about the high school seniors yet. Where are they going to go play? And they're the ones that's going to get hurt. And it'll all work itself out in a year or two. But for the seniors, 25 seniors and the 26 seniors, they're the ones that's going to kind of get left. It's going to be unique for a while, and I don't think it's going to be very good, especially for the high school kids.
Or you could you're muted, Maddox. Or you could just go the Blades Brown route and just go straight to the tour and the AMX at 17 this week.
I have a question regarding that, Shannon. Again, this is something completely different for the level that we're at here versus Division I. You know, for the kids that I would say are coming out of high school, to your point almost, you know, they have to learn college golf, right? I mean, it's a different beast than high school golf.
Sure.
Most high schools that I competed against, and, you know, most high schools across America, their golf coach isn't really a golf coach.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong, there's obviously a ton of really good golf coaches in high school. So if you're listening and you're a golf coach in high school, don't take offense to that. But again, it's a different beast, right? They're not, those guys that are going to college are generally the cream of the crop at their high school, and sometimes maybe in their area. But then they go to college where it's a bunch of those guys in the same spot. And I run into that all the time, because I'll get guys that are, you know, that think that they're going to come in and automatically start because they were the best in their high school. Then they get to a place like Point even, and they're like, whoa, you know, they're bottom half, or, you know, top half, but not quite making the team. And it's an eye opener. So I would say too, I mean, in a sense that it may seem like it's hurting them because they're not getting to that Power 5 immediately, but, you know, a lot of times that means they're not going to start anyways. And so maybe if they do go to somewhere like an NAI, like a D2, where they will start immediately, that gets them the experience and the exposure they need to then move on to Division I.
You know, to that point, it's going to be interesting because, you know, the junior college, as of the quarterback at Vanderbilt, what's his name? That ruling that, you know, he sued and Pavia. You know, now junior college years don't count. So I could see a scenario where a lot of these junior golfers don't get the look they want from, you know, Division I schools. You know, and I think us, when we were growing up, you thought of it as a prep school. You go to prep school for a year, get your grades straight, get a little more mature, and then you go play college. I think a lot of these kids will be able to go to junior college, play a year or two. It's not going to count against you. and to develop and then go that route. So I don't know. It's a real fluid time in college golf. There's no repercussions to transferring anymore. Kid doesn't get to play in time he wants. He's gone. So I know we've got sports here at West Georgia that fall sports that kid was in his fourth year of playing college athletics. And we were his fourth school, and that's shocking to me. And I'm here every day. I know when I was fortunate enough to play golf at Jacksonville State. That was the end all be all for me. That was it. And to this day, even though I compete against Jacksonville State, pretty often, as far as the other sports, and even when they're not playing us, I want them to do well. The other sports, I'm still going to the occasional basketball game, the football game, and it's just, there's loyalty, it's kind of a word that I use quite a bit. Don't see it quite as much anymore. And I know there's a lot of money involved now, and even in the college golf, there's Power 4 schools giving out tons of NIL money, at the Division I golf level. So it's interesting.
It's hard not to when you're Alabama or somebody else that builds a $50 million project. Here's the thing, and I know both of you guys have all of the, best, absolutely best. You want the best for the kids is my main point there. And I think every college coach across the country wants that for their kids. And I think it gets a little tricky when, like you said, a player may not have the best situation, needs to just work a little harder and get a little better at golf. My favorite part about golf is that you can't argue with a 67, right? Tiger said it best, that, if you go out and shoot 65, no one can argue with it. It doesn't matter what you look like, who you are. For the parents listening, it might sound stressful, especially if you have a freshman in high school right now that is breaking 80 on his way to getting better and really trying to achieve the dream of college golf. There is going to be a place for him to play if he is shooting the scores needed to be shot to play in college golf. You have to put your head down and you've got to get better and you've got to keep getting better, and you can't worry about the stuff. This is for, like you said, this is for the coaches. This is for, the futuristic looking at things, and you can kind of freak out about it. But put your head down, go earn it in the dirt, Tiger quote, and really learn how to perfect or attempt to perfect your weaknesses and get after it. That'd be my thoughts as a swing coach.
Completely. I agree with you. And I wish some of these kids would be a little more realistic, and understand the level that they're at. You may have to go to the small liberal arts college in a small town if you want to play college golf. You may want to go to the 25,000 state school, 25,000 person state school that has the big football and the big basketball. That all sounds great. But, you might be playing golf at a level to where if you want to continue to play college golf, you may need to, look at the smaller school to have the opportunity. I get emails every day. I know Red does too. Emails every day, me to, start recruiting them. Stroke average 78.5.
Yep.
Good. That's good. So few people can break 100 and break 90. I'm not saying those scores aren't good.
Right. What is for the listener, what is a score like? And I know that's come down in recent years. That's even got, when I first got into golf 10 years ago, people used to say, if you could break 80, you can go play college golf. And that's simply not the case anymore.
For me, if I get a name from a kid, from a recruiter, a lot of times I'll start my recruiting by going, you mentioned it earlier, junior golf scoreboard. I do, it's beneficial to me to get Georgia kids because of the Hope Scholarship. So I'll kind of pare it down from there. And then I kind of got to have stroke average is important, but, you got to look at the tournaments they played in. What's really important to me, trying to get this program, going at this level, I need kids that can go low. They in their resume, they may have a 76, 77, 78. But if they've broken par 4 or 5 times, that tells you something. Okay, they may have a 73.5, 74 stroke average. But if they finish 8th in the Future Masters and, another top 10 in America Junior somewhere, they can go. I think for me, a lot of times it's try to find kids that have the ability to go low. You know, and I actually had an experience this past fall that really kind of what was extremely eye-opening. I'm not going to use the school's name. They were really good people. We got paired with them, but this particular school was literally ranked. They were the lowest ranked team in the country, and you know, we don't have any clout yet, so we got paired with them. We were playing up in North Carolina, and I knew I'd done a little bit of research. I do it every time we travel. I knew that where this team was ranked, and so I told the guys I didn't know what they were going to shoot. Just be prepared if they have a couple of guys that aren't real good. Don't let it get to you. Okay, you do your thing. Focus on your game. The team score they threw out there that day wasn't good, but I watched their number one guy shoot a bogey-free 67.
Yeah.
We laugh about it at lunch. We laughed about it at lunch yesterday. I ate lunch with my guys a couple times a week. The fact that I watched a kid who's playing for the worst team in the country shoot a bogey-free 67. If that don't tell you something, everybody can play. Everybody can play. So, you know, for me, it's about getting kids that's played in big tournaments, who's been in the limelight, and can go low. That's kind of what I'm looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. Maddox, you want to add anything to that?
No, I mean, well, first to your point, I mean, it's like you said, if you have the desire to play college golf, I promise you there are teams that are looking for any and all levels of play. You know, especially I would say at the NAIA level. We're very fortunate that, you know, from ground zero, and when Coach Patton and Coach Payne especially because he was there for a little bit longer, he built a program that was top tier. And because of the groundwork that he set and the things that we started to accomplish when I was playing there in whatever it was, 2014 to 2018, we're considered a higher level NAIA program. But there are a couple hundred NAIA programs, and, you know, not knocking it, but the bottom of the bottom, those guys are obviously not quite as good. So there is a program for anybody. And again, maybe it's a stepping stone and a chance for them to get, you know, to get better. But from the recruiting aspect, I think it's the same for me. Is like, you know, as Shannon said, we get emails every day, probably 100 times a day. He probably gets 200 of them a day, you know, and the first thing you see on there is scoring average for me. I'm sure you see it all the time.
No, it's in the headline. It's
you know,
in the title of it every time.
Yeah, it's you know, 76.5 scoring average, and then, you know, 112 mile an hour club head speed. Cool. I do not
There's
care.
5,000 of you. Good.
Exactly. So,
Dude, I've got a
so
kid. I've got a kid I
what I do
teach.
from there. Go ahead.
I've got a kid I teach real quick. Kid, I love him to death. If he hears this, he's going to laugh his butt off. He couldn't break 90 if he tried. And that's just because he's a baseball player. He's a stud baseball player. Tried to walk on to Tennessee. Didn't work out. He's going to play at CVCC, I think. But he came into the teaching bed the very first time, and his driver swing was 127. So just to clarify, like when somebody puts club head speed 112 and they're a high school junior, there's no knocking it, but just don't include that in your emails to the coaches.
You know,
Yeah.
No, go ahead, Red. I'm sorry.
There's obviously upside because if you can swing it that fast, you're athletic, right? But where's the ball going, right? Like, you know, I want to see, like, for us, again, like with where we're at, we've got a lot of international players. So I don't have the budget to just fly over to South Africa and go watch these kids. I can get the videos of them, but 9 times out of 10, it's staged videos of them making 20 footers and hitting a shot to 10 feet. Well, I know that's not happening every time, and I know that's probably not their first shot from that, you know, on that golf course, and that's fine because I get what they're doing. I did the same thing when I was in college. I sent videos all over the country of me hitting golf balls on a mat, for goodness sakes. But again, from the point of seeing the scoring average, same as Shannon, I go back and I try to find every detail I can about this kid. I go through social media, huge factor. If I see anything on social media that I find to be not appropriate, or, you know, I'll leave it at that, not appropriate, I immediately just stop.
That's a red flag I'm done with. Absolutely.
Exactly. If I see inappropriate language, you know, drinking underage, anything like that they're posting on their social media, I'm out on that. It's just not, I don't want that. If you're not afraid to put it on social media, what is that going to tell me about you, right? But then again, I'm just diving deep. And again, looking at scores, I love the recruiters or the kids that take the time to put it on a spreadsheet and show me where they played, what if they can add a link to the scoreboard, add a link, the length of the golf course that they played, the slope and course rating. I mean, that matters a touch to me, and I always double check those facts as well. But because your scoring average is 80, that doesn't mean that you're going to shoot 80 every time. Maybe your scoring average in tournaments is 80, but I could go back and maybe that's the best that was in the field that week every time, versus a kid that maybe has a scoring average of 72 or 3. Well, then you go look and they've played a bunch of 9-hole events, and you're like, where'd you even get the scoring average from? And you see both sides of that. So scoring average isn't everything. And a lot of it, like Shannon said, you want to find kids that can take it deep, because at the end of the day, in college golf, it is, as much as it is an individual sport, it's a team sport. And I will take a guy that can go 65, 75, 80 versus a guy that's going to go 76, 76, 76, because that 65 is a humongous factor. And I'm pretty confident in my other 4 guys that are playing that event, that when he does shoot 80, those 4 guys are going to make up for it.
Correct.
Yeah, and I can speak to that. I'm thankful enough to be one of your closest friends where you bounce stuff off of me, even while you're out on the road in tournaments sometimes, and you're talking about either playing or sitting a player. And, one of the things is, like, there are some guys that we've had on the team that are going to not shoot over 80, but that they can't, have never proven that they can shoot below 74. And while that consistency is, something to strive for, if you are super up and down, you have to have the gas pedal when you need the gas pedal. Like, you've got to be able to put your foot down. Real quick, I want to go back to something I said. Clearly, it matters how far you hit the golf ball. That's one of the only things that matters in terms of your handicap. It's one of the only stats that does matter in terms of, like, your handicap and making sure that you're can achieve scratch status. So anybody that's out there, even if you're not trying to play college golf, you're just trying to get better at golf, you do need speed. You do need to be able to hit the ball far. I just want to put that on the record as something that I am a proponent of. Shannon, wrapping this up, we are at 46 minutes, but this conversation has just been so flowy, which is something that we're getting better at every podcast, I feel like, and it's just so nice to have somebody that we're both super comfortable with. Tell me the latest fishing story. I know you're still fishing, even though big time NCAA golf coach now, you still have to have some fishing.
No real fishing stories. I did get another boat, got me another bass boat.
Well, that's a fishing story in itself.
Well, my old skiff finally died on me, so I went and got me a G3. Been going as much as I can. I went out twice over the holidays. West Point Lake's tough, man. Maddox can speak on it. We've gone out there several times. West Point Lake's tough. I am planning on going in February before we really get fired up traveling. I'm gonna go to Lake Chickamauga. I already made contact with a buddy of mine up close to Chattanooga who guides up there, and going to do that. So that's my fishing. My fishing story's coming.
To have you back on.
Get done with that.
We'll have to have you back on the pod after the season concludes, and you can tell us all about it. Maddox, just to make you jealous a little bit, I am hopping in the truck tomorrow when my wife wakes up after a nap. My wife is working nights, not to make her sound lazy. She needs her naps right now. But when she wakes up from her nap tomorrow afternoon, I am hopping in the truck and going to meet Dad in Missouri for 2 days of duck hunting.
Well, look, I want to say something before we get done.
Yeah,
I want you.
Please.
I want y'all to listen to me. I can't tell you how proud I am of the young men y'all two have turned into. I've known both of y'all since y'all were very young, and it means the world to me to see for y'all to get married, have families, the successes y'all have had. That's what I'm all about, and it means everything to me. I'm really proud of y'all.
Thanks, Shannon. We really appreciate it. This has been the Overqualified Golf Dads Podcast, episode number 6, with University of West Georgia golf coach Shannon Lipham. Lip, cannot tell you how thankful we are to have you on as our first, well, obviously Maddox is a college golf coach, but our first guest in the college coaching world. It has been an absolute pleasure. Maddox, any words to end the pod on?
Yeah, no, thanks again, Shan. We really appreciate it. It's an honor to have you on. And again, we appreciate the kind words that you've given to us, but you know, you definitely played a role in both of our successes. So I want to say thank you for both of us for that as well.
Absolutely. And as always, go Wolves.
Go West, go Wolves.
All right, buddy. Catch y'all. And Skyhawks. See y'all.
See y'all.